gotta say, I was very nervous going in to see Till because these Jim Crow era civil rights movies can be triggering. They really can be triggering. And I was hoping that this would be one of those films about Emmett Till's lynching that would celebrate his life more than his lynching. And that is very, very hard to do since his life was so short lived. It was taken from him. So it is difficult to celebrate the life of a 14-year-old boy that was lynched in Mississippi in the 50s. I get it. But I gotta say, I totally appreciate what co-writer and director Chuku did with the material. She preserved the history, and I think she did an amazing job, very respectful with this era and the material and with Mother Mamie's legacy. I totally appreciate what she did with this property, and I am really rooting for her to get a Best Director nomination for this year's Oscars. Here's my review of Teal. This film is not preachy, it doesn't postulate, it tells in a very authentic and organic way how a young 14-year-old boy missed his family in Mississippi one summer, and all he wants to do is go down there to spend some time with his cousins for 2 weeks. And while there, is lynched and never gets back to his mother. So Mother Mamie didn't want him to go. She grew up in Mississippi. She know how things are down there, and all her young son knew was a lot of freedoms he got while living in Chicago. And her worst fears happened. That's what director Chuku's camera captures. A mother whose instincts told her, don't let him go. But she did, so he can get to know his family, and he never returned back alive. She's very respectful of the trauma while being blatant about the facts. Now, while this film is very respectful to those who survived this era, it's informative to those of us born after the height of the Jim Crow era. So there's a trigger warning. Her camera slowly rises before it shows Emmett Till's body, his remains. It rises like the stench of carcass. She gives you just enough time to take a deep breath and prepare yourself for what you're about to see. How seared his body is, and maimed and decomposed and bloated his body is, just the way Mother Mamie preserved it for his open casket. And this had to be done. People have to see it. But she does really take her time and is respectful of the remains. So when you see this film, you will know when you're about to see the body. Another thing I appreciate is, though you can see Carolyn Bryant's face, and Haley Bennett, who played, she was just recently in Cyrano, I think she did a great job sort of as Carolyn Bryant, who really caused this and who was so nonchalant uh, and treated him as if his life and worth and value were irrelevant. What our camera doesn't show you is the faces of Emmett Till's acquitted lynchmen, J.W. Milam and his brother Roy Bryant. Their faces aren't shown, and I think it was unnecessary. It was not necessary to show their faces because we've seen these faces. We see these faces every day. We see these faces every day. 67 years later, we're still seeing these faces. So their faces, we didn't have to see these faces. So I'm fine there too. This is a stunning portrait of not only what they went through at this time, but what we're still going through now, and how Danielle Deadwyler does a career defining, gut wrenching, deep dive into what Mother Mamie must have been going through. This trauma of knowing this could happen, and her worst fears happened. How she uses her face and her body to project what Mother Mamie was going through at this time, and how she sits with it after the trial and after the funeral when she's at home alone and it's quiet and she has to sit in her pain and that quietness because her only son is never coming home. She'll never hear his voice. She'll never see him get married or go to college or whatever. Her worst fears came alive, and I think Danielle Deadwyler did a stunning job as Mother Mamie Till Mobley. I believe that Danielle Deadwyler is not only a shoo-in for Best Leading Actress at the Oscars, for the Best Leading Actress nomination, but I think she's a front runner. She is stiff competition. I couldn't take my eyes, I couldn't look away. And there's a lot in this film that is triggering emotionally. I mean, you will be shifting in your seat, but you can't look away. I think she did a phenomenal job. Whoopi Goldberg did a phenomenal job. She's one of the producers and she played Mother Mamie's mother. Please see this film when it arrives at your local theater. Take your friends, your family, your church members, please see this film. This message is so necessary. We still know mothers going through this to this day. 6 decades later, we know these mothers. Please see this film. Please support this film. And please support Black filmmakers.